Hi guys, and hi Mr. Bert. Welcome to our global environment presentation for our ethics, responsibility, and sustainability class. Before I start, I'd like to give you guys an overview of our presentation for today. So today we're going to be talking about our chosen documentary, the China Blue documentary. We're going to be talking about our main topic, global environment, poor working conditions, child labor, and related companies to child labor. Before I show you guys this mini video clip of our documentary, I'd like to give you guys a brief summary about this documentary. So China Blue is a documentary about a 17-year-old girl named Jasmine who, like many other girls her age in China, leaves her village to go work in the city in the jeans factories to support her family financially. This documentary illustrates the horrible working conditions she faces. For example, in the documentary, there was an ex-supervisor who told how all the supervisors would walk around with long screwdrivers to poke the workers who fell asleep so they would wake up and keep on working. Jasmine and her co-workers were around 14 to 15 years old. They work from 8 a.m. till 2 a.m., sometimes even later, depending if they have like big shipments, big orders, and sometimes they would go months without receiving an off day. All this just to earn about $25 to $30 a month. This is mostly because if the factory would actually pay them the minimum wage required by law and let them get adequate rest, the factory simply would not be able to compete with other factories. This documentary was interrupted many times by Chinese authorities. The production crew was arrested, they were interrogated, tapes were confiscated. The production crew had to end their contact with Jasmine. But did you guys know that this happens a lot in China? Well, yes. In China, it is prohibited to talk to foreign media and to start labor unions. In China, the government uses some laws. They use arrests, penalties, and other means to force Chinese media to censor themselves. Now I'm going to show you guys a video clip of our documentary.
Hi friend, hello from China. My name is Jasmine. I'm from Sichuan. Do you like Sichuan food? I left home 4 months ago. I miss my mom and dad and my kitty. My friends and I made these jeans for you. Baby made the back pockets. Orchid installed the zipper. And I cut the loose threads. They said we are very lucky to be able to work in the factory. I'm just happy I can help my sister through high school. You can write me to dorm room number 408, Leaf Factory, Shaxi, China.
Today I'm going to talk about global environment. Global environment consists of the international interactions out of a company's control that influence how businesses operate. For example, global environmental trade laws can influence a company's ability to import materials or ingredients. The environment is actually just a stakeholder of every company in the world because it can change the way a company works, and a company can change the environment positively or negatively with the work they do. Every human has an impact on the environment. Most of the impacts are negative, and that leads to environmental issues. Environmental issues are issues created due to human activities, which cause harm to the environment. The biggest environmental issue is overpopulation. Almost all the environmental issues are created by overpopulation. That's why this is one of the biggest problems in the world right now. The issues created by overpopulation are, for example, pollution, industry, industrialization, and climate change. The effects of pollution are soil, air, and water contamination. Um, this affects this has a huge impact on human health, and because a lot of pollution ends up in the ocean, there's a really bad impact on animal and marine life. The negative effects of industrialization are mainly in Eastern countries, like long wages, long hours, child labor, and unsafe working conditions. Uh, these negative effects are also visible in our documentary. The industrialization also created urbanization, which is one of the main contributors to climate change. Observations show that half of the observed land decreases in temperature range due to urbanization and other land use. They estimated that 0.27 Celsius degree surface warming per century due to land use. That's twice as high as the previous estimations. Industrialization also has positive effects. For instance, new jobs, and it encourages advancement and innovation, and it provides educational opportunities. Um, Environmental factors can affect many important aspects of business, like the willingness of customers buying your product. For example, who wants a heater when it's getting warmer every year because of the global warming. Another example is the availability of some goods like oil and organic gas. If the supplies of these goods drop, the prices would go up, and this would have big effect on businesses. This gives opportunities to create other fuel sources, like using water as fuel sources, or even improving other fuel sources like solar energy.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about the poor working conditions. One of the biggest elements in global environment is the working conditions that people work in. When we look at the documentary, we can see that in this case the working conditions are very bad. The employees have to work at least 11 hours a day, but this is often not the case. The official working day ends at 7 p.m., but Jasmine and her co-workers have to work extra most of the time, whilst not getting paid for the extra hours. Sometimes this adds up to 35 extra hours per week, and all of this for just 50 euro cents for the normal hours. On top of that, when the inspection visits the factory, the employees have to lie about the conditions to make it seem like there's nothing wrong going on at the factory. All of this is very unethical. Even though this documentary was released in 2005, these conditions have not improved in a big part of China. According to an article from CNBC in 2018, 13 years after the documentary, investigators found out there were severe violations at factories that produce for Hasbro and Disney that were endangering the workers that work in the factories. Employees had to work up to 175 overtime hours per month, whilst the maximum amount of overtime hours is 36 in China. On top of that, the employees did not even get the required 24-hour safety training. This means that they did not even know how to protect themselves from harmful chemicals. The way that these situations are brought to existence is because of the big multinationals basically forcing the factories to lower the costs while increasing the production amounts. Of course, these two factories are not the only ones. According to an article from War on Want, 482 million people in China live on less than $2 a day, which is 36% of the total population of China. Other than the wages being extremely low, the number of people getting injured or getting diseases at work is very high. In 2009, around 1 million people got injured at work and 20,000 people got diseases because of the work they have to do at the factories.
So, hi teacher. I will be speaking about child labor. So, first of all, as a matter of fact, there's 152 million children that is the estimated that are right now in child labor. Like child labor right now is a growing concern, especially because in some countries like China, kids are starting to work from the ages of 10 to 15, like to help their families. So like many of these children come like from poor families. So they start working mostly like at the age of 13 or 15, like to 15. And like employment agencies will like try to trick them or kidnap them, and they will just take them to any part of the country and will make them work for 300 hours. So like this also has like a big relation with school dropouts, because like kids will not have the time that they need to study because they will be spending it on working hours. um so like actually, as also as a matter of fact, is that China is not even one of like the biggest like countries with child labor. Like actually like the continent that has like the biggest child labor amount is Africa, being 71 million, yeah, 71 million. And from that amount, 31 million is doing hazardous jobs. So yeah. And also like I think there's also like an important point that we should also cover with this child labor, now also referring to our document, because in our document the main character is the one that wants to work even though she's underage. um so like in the point of like looking at in an utilitarian point, like if the child is the one that is volunteering and like the family needs the money, I think utilitarian will actually support like this topic. Like if the kid like knows that he's like the only hope, like for the family not to be entirely poor, and like help the family survive, you know. And of course, like child labor like is one of the obstacles that is like causing SDGs goals not be accomplished, because it goes against the goal of quality education, the goal of poorness, because of course like they're not even getting well paid even though they're doing like dangerous jobs also. And like also like it goes against the goal of uh production, if I'm not wrong, correct production. So yeah, so this is quite a topic that it has been like over the years. And I think like it has to be stopped for, and governments should do something, not only by putting laws, because some governments like China are actually doing something about it by causing awareness to the parents, like for them not to send their children, or like just to let like help them make understand the children that education is more important than child labor.
Related companies. There are a few American brands that are involved in the blue jean industry. Brands such as Guess, Tommy Hilfiger, Levi's, and Walmart. The last two I mentioned are involved with the factory in the in the Blue China documentary, and I'm going to talk about their biggest scandals with factories. Levi's. In 1992, the Washington Post exposed the company's exploitation of Chinese prison labor to make jeans. Um, Levi Strauss responded by creating um, a code of labor standards. But when the American brand shifted all of its manufacturing overseas, it resorted once again in relying on labor from China, Bangladesh, and many more other countries. Many of these factories violated the ethical company's ethical code, just like the factory in Durango, Mexico. Um, they not allowed labor organization, forced workers to work more than 12 hours a day, and without overtime and back pay. In 2005, some of the workers got fired because they organized successfully, um, but fortunately, they got their jobs back, and they got overtime with back pay. Walmart. In order to keep Walmart's prices low, Walmart employs workers abroad in 48 different countries. Um, Millions of workers in Walmart's many sweatshop factories regularly experience health and labor violations, including routine overtime without pay and um, minimum wage up to 30% below the country's minimum. In 2005, 15 workers from 6 different countries filed a lawsuit against Walmart for not controlling the sweatshop conditions. The company agreed to toughen their standards for the in the factories for their overseas suppliers, but didn't outline concrete measures to take. Um, in fact, Walmart will not terminate its contract with the factory, even if that factory was found to have violated the corporation's code of conduct. Only after the factory fails the inspection 3 times in a row, Walmart will not renew its contract. So basically, they will not. They do the first 2 times they do not care if you violate the code of conduct, but only after the 3rd time. It's a bit strange.
So these are all the sources that we use for the presentation. This is the end of our presentation. We hope you enjoyed, and now you will be looking at our group discussion.
Hello, thank you for participating. How are you doing today?
Good, thank you.
Okay. Let's start. Our topic is global environment. We've watched a documentary, China Blue. It is about a 16-year-old girl, Jasmine, and she works in a jeans factory for a very low wage and very bad working environment. So let's start this discussion. Kenley?
Yeah, so I'm gonna do the first question. So, okay, so why do you guys think that child labor happens?
It's cheap wages. You don't have to pay much.
Yeah, I will agree with you. But like, do you have like maybe another idea?
In poor countries, they need all the kids to work to live, to make a living wage. So
Yeah,
companies take advantage of that.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, I do agree with that. We also believe that is because of the poor families, you know. So because they have a really low economic situation, they need more money, so their kids have to go and work. Also because of the lack of education. Yeah, maybe you guys maybe got another idea.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's okay. Okay, so what standards of age and employment should be used to regulate like child labor?
I think like 13 years old and not a lot hours. That you can still go to school.
Exactly. That's just like a mini job.
Yeah.
Or even, you know, that they say, okay, you're just allowed with 16, like the standards are, for example, in Germany, or with 15, you can just work like max, let's say like 3-4 hours a day and not longer than 8 p.m. because like kids need the sleep for developing their brains and all that, and that they are able to go to school, that school should be on first part, and after that, if they still have time, they can work.
Yeah, I totally agree with you because I believe that there should be a balance, you know, like try not like to make kids not go to school because they want to work. I do know like in the Netherlands there are like some laws for that, like depending on your age there's like a certain amount like you can earn.
Don't you think someone from 13 years old should self pick what hours they work, or if they want to work?
No, because sometimes these kids can be influenced by their parents who might really need this money, but it shouldn't be the child's burden to be working those hours. Thus, laws should help regulate what these kids can do.
Okay.
Yeah, I totally agree with Emily.
Well, I think they may, but only if the amount of hours is according to law. No, if you decided that a child of 13 years old is allowed to work for 3 hours a week, or you know, something like that, then I think the parents should be able to say to 13 year olds, you will go to work.
So you mean your parents can force you to work, or
Kind of,
like,
yeah.
What school?
It depends a little bit on the age and how much, but I think, yeah.
But you would also agree on that school should be first point.
First,
So
yes, first priority.
they're not allowed to send their kids to work while they apparently have school on that day, on that hour.
No, that should not be no, not be allowed. And I
If they
think,
can afford school, right? Not everyone can afford it, so it just depends.
yeah, well,
if you look for the ideal world, everyone should be able to go to school, and that should be the first priority.
Yeah, like I should totally
yeah,
agree with that, because like as a matter of fact, like one of the reasons like a lot of kids like drop out from school is because of child labor, because they don't get the time to study, you know, so they just keep focusing on the work.
so next question. How many euros per hour do you think the workers from the factory in our documentary earned compared to someone who bought the blue jeans, so to the company who bought the blue jeans? So this is the documentary was in 2005, so it is already a little while ago. But how much do you think a Chinese worker earned per hour?
Maybe
3
cents. Yeah, 5 cents.
3 cents.
Okay, well, that's a bit extreme. The average factory worker earned around 51 euro cents per hour, while the salary has gone up to 3.04 euros per hour. But still, back then it was very low.
And the companies who bought the blue jeans actually made 25 million in a year, in comparison to what, like, how many euros is that? 200 euros a year. So do you guys think that's ethical or unethical?
That is unethical, because they should be able to, first of all, provide the workers with what they've actually earned, and also share their profits so that more people can also have a future and build a future for themselves, instead of being greedy and keeping it all.
I totally agree with
Yeah,
that.
totally.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Yeah, but I also think it's the role of the government that they set the regulation, but like companies still like do their thing, but it's like the government's role to say, okay, workers should get that and that paid, also in the countries like, yeah, where the jeans get produced. That's my opinion.
So basically, we agree that not only should they be paid better wages by rules and regulations, but either over hours should be compensated or just not happen at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it
Just
starts
very,
with the laws and
yeah,
regulations, because they can do whatever they want.
Mhm.
Now, you can say everything that they need to be paid better, but like the safety and environmental regulations in China back then, I don't know the situation now, but back then were horrible. So, next question.
So why do you guys think?
what do you guys? Oh, Max.
Yeah, oh yeah. Why do you guys think it's cheaper to manufacture the products in China?
Cheaper labor, cheaper rent costs. Everything's just cheaper because there are no laws preventing them.
Yeah.
Yeah, also the way they produce is probably cheaper than, or there are no regulations, so they can, I don't know, yeah, make business there on a cheaper scale. and then they would do here or in the like other countries.
Also, a lot of people there are a lot of people that would work for lower wages than here. Here, a lot of people are higher educated and they wouldn't work a lot of hours in a factory for a few euros.
Yeah, but it's also like the companies who use those factories also kind of have a monopoly, because they can just say, okay, I want you to reduce costs and I want you to reduce the hourly wage, or otherwise we'll just go to another factory, because they will do it anyway. So
Yeah, they haven't much choice actually. So
yeah, so next question.
Next question.
Okay, so what do you guys think will happen to companies or factories if the goal number one of the SDGs, no poverty, is reached by the United Nations?
Like what rules should be made?
No, rather the
No, like what will happen
the
to companies
Happen.
if there is no poverty anywhere
at all.
at all?
First, they're were able to like pay the workers that less, so they kind of have to give them the average how do you say, like, money they earn. And then second, I mean, probably they're not making that much profit anymore, because like the wages are getting higher and they cannot like force people to work under those bad conditions and for that less money, since they're probably more educated, since there's maybe no poverty anymore.
I think also when everyone there's no poverty, I think that the companies go back to the countries they were originally based in. So there will be less jobs for the people in the third world countries that are existing right now would have less jobs.
Don't think they
Do
would
you
just
guys agree with that?
No, I do not agree with that. If you have no job, then you are poor, and then poverty exists. You know?
Okay.
Yeah, and I
understand.
So if there is a world without poverty, that's no problem.
Yeah, so it's kind of impossible to create a world without any poverty in it.
Well,
unless new companies rise.
The money system has such a way of working that there is always one richer than the other. So in certain terms, you can always say, I think, that one group, the lowest group of the people who have the least amount of money, they are poor. They can live under better circumstances, and that's what we should all strive for. But there always is a group that has less money.
Yeah, but like the definition of poverty is not the people who don't have that much money. It's just like the money you have to survive. And of course, people don't have that much money, but then it doesn't mean that they're like,
I realized the moment I said it. Thank you.
Next question.
So, do you guys think the SDGs are realistic enough? So will they be eventually reached?
Not in our lifetime.
You think so?
2030.
Yeah.
Yeah, not 2030. I mean, like, they can be, but it's like, I think there's so many factors around that. I mean, like, if everyone else is working on their self, I mean, we just have to start there. But everyone is so egocentric enough to just like think about their self. I mean, like there must change so much. I mean, like, again, like the government, they have to make new regulation that things like that are even possible to change. I mean, like if they're like in those third world countries, I mean, there still will be like I think there still will be the companies. I don't think that the companies will change the location, since in those countries, like for example, the environmental factors and regulations are not as high as here. You know what I mean? It's just like, I think like the whole world, everyone, like the government has to change. And I don't think that can be changed in 10 years by now.
And also,
I
like
think it's
according to the United Nations, it's basically impossible to reach the SDGs by 2030. Even they said it.
Yeah, but they said it
I
as a
just think
goal,
it's
you know, to go there on a faster pace than you say we do it in 2080. Because if you set your goal for 2080, then everyone just gonna wait until 2060 and then start their goals.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So they realized we're not gonna make it, but they made the goal, so the countries would take action. And I think that's a good idea.
it just
Yeah,
starts
I
with
agree on
like
that.
corruption. Like people get paid off just not to make that loss, and then you're like stuck. So companies will always have the overhand over the government, so as long corruption exists, you're not going to invert those rules.
Yeah, and as long as we have corrupted like government people who can get, yeah, well,
It's
Yeah,
it's impossible. Like everyone needs to be like ethical and good. It's not. You cannot have like bad specimens or people around.